Welcome to episode 8 of the Voice Break podcast. I actually have a magician on today. Her name is Sonia. She has the magic of color. Anything she touches becomes beautiful and vibrant. It's true. I mean, your paintings are like embedded in my head,
Oh,
legitimately. And it's like sorted right along with I think we talked about this, but it's this famous painter who died tragically. That's aside the point. His name is Szynski, something really hard to pronounce,
hmm.
but it's very gorgeous and it's just like magnetic. I'd love to hear, well, what inspires your artwork?
I mean, to be honest, well, I've been making art ever since I can remember, and even well, as you may have observed, through what I've been sharing just online, I kind of, I wasn't really making my art. I was still being creative in different ways, and definitely doing things that were art related, but in terms of like, making my art, I had stepped away from it for a little bit. I have kids and everything, and there's different things I was focusing on, and just took a step back from really working on my, um, on what I actually do, when I focus on my work. In terms of what inspires me, I mean, it's always just been the same. I mean, for me, art is just, it is almost like an automatic reflex, and it's just a way that I just process the world around me, process my emotions, dreams also, ever since I can remember. I've always
Mm.
had very vivid dreams, and um, making my art is just something that really, ever since I was a small child, it's just something that I've just always done as a way to just, it's just a reflex, to be honest. So it does seem kind of crazy that I would have stepped away from it, but in a way, it's just, I think I'm not the first artist that you hear about that has stepped away from really immersing themselves in their art. And for various reasons, I did. And but I knew that I was ready to get back into it, and I needed to. And I'm, in a way, it's kind of like I had, well, I realized after a time that that I had, well, I needed to be doing it again. So it's just
Mhm.
really, in a way, it's just a reflex, but it's also part of how I process life in general. So,
Mm.
and even like I said, even though I wasn't really practicing like my art per se, like as, I choose to do, I still you're still an artist even when you step away from your art for, you know, you're still an artist, and it's just how you process the world and you express it in different ways. And I know that I was, but um yeah, so not sure if
Mhm.
that made sense to anyone else. But yeah, that's
Well,
how
no,
it is.
I think it's relatable when you've done something for so long. Certain things in the environment happen in your life. There comes a need sometimes for almost like a fast.
Hmm.
Like when you fast from food, when you fast from something, abstinence in a way, it allows for something that is very rare when you have done something for so long, which is almost an outside perspective.
Mm.
So sometimes you just have to step away to gain something new, something that you couldn't see before.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's definitely a really great way to view it for sure. That makes a lot of sense, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I I've done a couple things like that myself.
Mhm.
When COVID happened, I was actually really fortunate in that I
Mhm.
didn't really have problems from COVID personally.
Right.
In fact, in many ways, it was a blessing that we locked down, and actually that I lost my job. That was a blessing at the
Yeah,
time.
so many people did. So
Was-
many people did.
Yeah, and for
Yeah.
so many people, it was terrible. Like
No, I mean,
there's
it's a
many.
trauma that we're still getting past, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, without a doubt, and I'm fortunate in that I didn't experience really any of that. It was almost like I had a pocket in
Mm.
time, and I could explore a lot of the things that I hadn't explored before. One of the things I did was actually I fasted from music. Like I completely shut away music for 3 weeks,
Yeah. Mhm.
and that was so healing. So I understand the need and the value that that has. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
use a
mean,
lot of, there's warm and say again?
hello. Sorry, I think it cut out for a second.
Oh, we lost each other.
Yeah, 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 cut out for a second.
You use a lot of thing.
I didn't
I
catch
think the
it.
internet's going to crap.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't catch what you said. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah, it's back. I'm
Are
not
we
sure
back?
what happened,
Okay.
but it's a little
We'll just
bit,
have to roll
yeah.
with it.
Okay.
It's a little bit crunchy. Okay. I noticed you use a lot of like extremely warm colors. I would say almost like hot colors. Like this is temperature wise, this is like burning almost. Tell me more about that.
I mean, well, primarily, I guess I'm really drawn to red. I just love it. Well, I mostly wear black actually, but in terms of what I wear, but in terms of like colors that I like to work with, I just really love like a vivid red color, and red is it is very symbolic, and it's definitely factors into different dreams that I have and stuff. Obviously, red is the color of blood. But to me, that's not a bad thing. To me, it's very symbolic of life. And, I mean, we could go back to talking about the pandemic and everything. I mean, I live in New York City, and for us here, it was like I said, it was a trauma that we're definitely, at least here in this, it's still something that we're all processing. I mean, I also, I was pregnant during 2020. I had my daughter in September,
Oh,
so I lived right down the street from the hospital, where they had, the refrigerated trucks and everything. Sorry to turn it dark, but it's just to me, like mortality and life, death, it's something that I've always been drawn to thinking about, for better or for worse, from a young age. And in terms of that experience with the pandemic, it's definitely, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's something that I'm still processing. And I think a lot of people here are. I mean, um, I think I'm getting past what the original question was, but in terms of colors, red, I definitely, um, I just appreciate the color itself. And um, usually for me too, in terms of art, and the colors used, like, symbolism is something that factors into it a lot too. I've always been attracted to symbols, and um, not just personal but historical. And colors a lot of times are, I put a lot of thought into what colors I use, and then of course, just this aesthetically, like um, what works when you're creating a painting. I mean, I'm not, well, in a way, I'm self-taught, but I also did go to school. I did go to art school, and you learn about color theory and stuff. So it's, while I'm very free with how I make my work, I'm still, step back and look at it from other people's perspectives too, I guess. But yeah, I mean, colors,
Hmm.
I love playing around with colors, and you know, just trying it in different mediums. I work in all different mediums, different kinds of paints. I work with acrylics, I work with oils, I work with drawing materials, all different things, and which is a really great way to explore color. And um, you know, so even though I don't wear a lot of colors, I still appreciate them. And I love all different kinds of art too. So, in terms of,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, colors and stuff, it's always great to see how artists work with color. And yeah, I really enjoy that as well.
Yeah, I can tell. Just the the minimalist use of it is really captivating to me. But I
Thank you.
don't want to gloss over the fact that mortality is a big part of the symbolism and the images that you depict.
Hmm.
And it sounds like COVID was definitely a very trying time. Now, I personally don't even know what it's like. Almost like I had a completely different experience in COVID. So coming from like growing up as a child and then learning about mortality and the confusion around it, and then kind of witnessing this thing unfold with COVID and affecting the entire world, I can see why the visceral power of red is so prominent in your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to themes and symbols that you see in your own work, just like in retrospect, do you feel like there's something that almost emerges as a pattern, like something that is a recurring theme? And what would that be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would definitely say, when I make things, I usually do work on quite a few pieces at once. So, you know, in a way it's kind of like a collection or like a series, I guess is more accurate. So yeah, I mean, I'll focus on,
Hmm.
you know, maybe like a few different images in my mind and then kind of work through them through different artworks. I also, part of it too is I actually really rely a lot on like the spontaneity of the materials. So, and that this is something that goes back to being a kid too. I mean, I just really have fun working with the materials, working with the mediums, and um, you know, and just playing around with them and seeing what comes out of it. I like to um sometimes I don't even I don't have a plan for what I'm making. I just sit down and I just start painting, and then I just kind of rely on that part of the process too. So I never I would honestly say I never sit down to make something with a full image in my mind. I just play around with the materials, and then things just take shape, and um that's just how I've always worked. And then, like I said, it kind of just, it's almost kind of like a subconscious thing. So they're just images that pop into my mind that I just try to translate onto the paper or the canvas or whatever it may be. I work in different materials. Right now I'm working mainly on paper, on kind of a smaller scale just because of time and space constraints that I have, but I have done different things like even when I was in school I really enjoyed welding, and I've worked I'm actually trained in printmaking, so different things, which printmaking I'm getting back into as well. So I'm looking forward to adding that in, just different ways to, yeah, different, like I said, it's working with the materials, and then um just kind of translating different images that pop into my mind or something. So it's a balance between the
Hmm.
materials and what what I'm thinking or processing, basically.
Almost like a spice
I
rack.
hope I answered the
You want to
original
you
question.
want to make a certain. Oh, I think you did loud and clear, and that's
Okay.
actually what inspires me so much. It's the way you're saying about having just taking things from proximity, and kind of just playing with what's available.
Hmm.
In my experience, like looking back, that has been that's been what has actually worked for me in creating anything. Like trying to make something all super contained and like ultra focused is it's not that fun. But when you have it's
Right.
almost like a spice rack, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And for me, like if I'm
Like
not, yeah, no, I totally, I agree with you completely. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not, I really enjoy what I do, and if I wasn't enjoying it, then um for me well, I don't know if I want to say there's not much point, but I'm never gonna I'm never gonna torture myself to make something. I mean, every single thing that I make definitely you know I enjoy the process. And if something's not working, I put it aside for a little bit. I know I always come back to things usually when I put them aside. So I tend to work on, at least a few different things at once. And um yeah, but definitely, I do hear a lot of artists talking about, you know, beating themselves up over a drawing that they're trying to make, but um, you know, it's just not how I work. I totally respect everyone's process, but for me, I, I need to have the freedom and, enjoy what I'm doing basically. Because that's, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a way of
Yeah.
processing for me, and it's not gonna, I feel like, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just not ever been my experience. I just enjoy
So
making art,
being,
so.
yeah, and that art is without judgment and without standard. It's to get it out rather than to be something in particular.
Right.
And they're
Yeah,
two
yeah,
different
yeah.
goals, right? Some people like one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and even when, well, when I got back into making my art, it actually coincided with, you've heard of the Inktober challenge. I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, but it's,
Oh
it's
yeah.
where you have, yeah, there's a prompt, and then you follow the prompt. But even in following the prompts, and it's part of the doing that challenge actually was really beneficial for me getting back into the process of making art every day. And um I even with the prompts, it could be very open-ended, so it was, I wouldn't beat myself up trying to, draw a hyper realistic image of, whatever the prompt may be. There was path was one, I know, different things, but um yeah, I mean, and that's the thing I liked about it too, because, seeing what other people were doing too was just amazing, because I just love seeing what other artists do, and seeing how people approached a prompt of one word, seeing what other artists came up with. And sometimes it was very specific, very realistic, other times not. So it's just really cool. I mean, I just love seeing how other people interpret something, whether it be, how do
Mm.
you depict a path, or, you know, and then what materials people decided to use. I think, I did see some people doing things that weren't just black and white, but I think traditionally the challenge is black and white, but there people do add some
Mhm.
color here and there, but it's black and white, which is interesting too. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Black and white has a certain effect.
Yeah,
It's really interesting how emotion plays into color.
it's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
people like study that for
Yeah.
their whole lives.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, for some people color is very attached to how they process the world. I mean, quite literally. So, yeah, so that's interesting as well.
Mhm. Yeah. One thing that I've seen in a very, like, broad study, I think actually it was a meta study on color and emotion associations across cultures.
Interesting, yeah.
And not all cultures process or even view color the same. Like, there's some
Mhm.
languages where blue and green is the same word, there's no difference.
Right.
So that alone changes the way that you view things. But
Mhm.
across all nations and all cultures, the three emotions most closely associated with black, white, and red were three of the most powerful emotions, period.
Mhm.
And interestingly, very polarizing.
Yeah.
And I believe it was hate, love, and fear.
Interesting, yeah.
All black, white, and red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are great
Or
colors. I mean,
maybe
I
it was
love all
anger.
colors. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. But it's especially interesting because you see a lot of black and white and a lot of red in your work, and the way you're
Mm,
talking about it, it was like mortality is a big part of your focus,
mhm.
but it's not like per se to be down and depressed. It's depicting.
Yeah,
And
and I'm exactly, yeah. Yeah, go on.
yeah. Good. Okay, so I got that
Definitely.
right.
Yeah.
So those three emotions, would you say that, well, I'm actually curious as to how you feel those emotions come out in your work. What do they look like?
You said depression was one? Depression, grief? I'm sorry. I'm not taking it lightly because, yeah,
No,
I
well,
mean, yeah, so it's depression, and then what was the other one? Depression and
oh no, so it was anger, love, and
oh,
fear.
oh, anger,
Yeah.
grief, and fear.
No, no,
And
no.
then
Anger,
how does
love, and fear.
oh, anger, love, and fear. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, anger, love, and fear. And how do they relate to my work?
Yeah.
That's yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. They're not the first they're not the first things that come to my mind when I think about my work, and definitely when I'm making it, I'm not coming from a place of any of those really. I mean,
Hmm.
you said anger, grief, or fear, right?
Not grief. No, not
Oh,
grief.
oh, why do I keep coming back to grief? Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
You
Maybe it's
know.
a
Um,
Freudian moment.
yeah, I mean, definitely, I'm just trying to think how they relate. I mean, I, hmm, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to think how they relate to, definitely not,
Well,
I mean,
if you could name three, like what would be the top three emotions that come to mind for your work?
yeah, I mean, I would probably say, well, okay, so words are not my strong point. That's although I can obviously speak and I can write, but it's not, words take a little extra time. They don't come as naturally to me, as making art. So that's one thing. If I could name, I'm just trying to
Hmm.
think because I feel like words can be so potentially charged. I mean, well, I would say probably darkness, light, and um dreams are what is all they those are just the words that come to me, honestly. I mean, you know, without going into it too much, I've definitely, had my own struggles with depression, and um I think that's definitely something that people should be aware of. That I mean, I feel like so many of us struggle with it in different ways. I mean, you know, a lot of these things are just, you know, my art is about processing emotions and, um, you know, dreams and stuff like that. But I'm getting a bit lost here in what I'm trying to say, because yeah, it's challenging. I'm trying to think. I lose the original question sometimes. It's hard to it is hard to for me to label with words just because it doesn't come as naturally to me.
Mm.
So that's tricky. I mean, I really and honestly, when I make something, I'm not I'm not even trying to make a statement per se. I sometimes I make something and I'm just like, what did I just make? Honestly. Um, so I'm not afraid to say that a lot of it is like subconscious. I mean, you talked about fear, you talked about anger. I mean, I think it's really good to try to be in touch with those things and process them in a way that's healthy. I mean, I think making art is very healthy. Maybe someone thinks otherwise, that's fine. They can think that. I know for me it's very healthy, and
Mhm.
I really don't shy away from, whatever comes into my mind and that I translate on into the artwork, I let it happen, and um and then I like I said, I started sharing my work with others, and I really, you know sometimes I'm like, I who knows what people are going to think when they see this, but you know whatever it may be, it's okay. I'm just, and I like to hear what people's interpretation is. I'm never, like I said, I'm just never trying to make a statement about a particular emotion or thing. I'm just, yeah, so I always love to hear um, what other people see. Um, I do have different ideas in mind, but it is kind of open-ended sometimes, so
Mhm.
it's hard for me to label with words. But um I think all all of those things, all those emotions are being processed and translated into the art. So um it could be all of those. It could be all of them, really.
It could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
From the sounds of it, when when you said light, dark, darkness, and dreams,
Mhm.
it's really letting the experience happen. Comes out on paper or whatever the medium is.
Yeah.
That's exactly how dreams are. It's just flowing.
Mhm.
There's a lack of target per se. It's just
Yeah.
going. And
Yeah.
that
Definitely.
captures everything. I mean, light and dark and flow. That's everything in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
not about it's not about saying something in particular for you. It's just about saying whatever's there.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up for sure.
Mm. That's interesting. I found that a lot with when I was writing poetry a lot around
Mhm.
2019 to 2020 or so. I was doing a lot of poetry. And I would do that oftentimes. I'd see kind of like almost like intentionality come about, but on accident. It was just like,
Mhm.
huh, I guess I was feeling that. And just like keep writing. The way that I thought of
Yeah.
it recently was like if you have a pen, it's almost like the dreams or the experience is the ink and you just want it to keep flowing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How do you feel like the taking a step back recently changed your perspective and or your art?
Hmm. Well, I mean, as I mentioned before, I have kids, and when you're a mother, really your cells are literally tied up in your kids, and it's very, it's very consuming in a very beautiful way. So, that, and it's not like they don't, Mike, there's still it still is like that, but as children get older, they, well, basically, I mean, when I do my work, I do art sometimes when they're around, and we make art together, and we have been doing that for pretty much their whole lives. They like to make art too. So, but for me, that's, I don't consider that making my art, because I still, the great thing is I was still, playing around with art materials and everything like that. So, um, which is part of what I love about, art, is just playing with the materials too. But, um, so in a way I was so, that's, it's so consuming. And then also, with the pandemic happening, there's so many other um things that made it, you know impossible to focus on anything else, really. I mean, there's just, and then my kids have their own needs that I won't go into detail here, but that I need to focus on too. So, and I work full time. I in a field that does require a lot of energy. To, you have to I'm in social services, and I love what I do, and that's very consuming as well. And I worked throughout the pandemic. Um so, I'm always I'm definitely getting away from the original question, but I'll come back to it as I think. But I'm definitely, as many people are, as we all are, I'm really busy. And, um, you know, right now, the way I do things is, I still have all of those things going on, although my kids are a bit older, but not quite. My daughter's 3 and my son is 5. Um, but I just really have to drink a lot of caffeine, and I stay up pretty late. So that's what I do now. And even though sometimes I am a little bit tired, in the end, actually, I'm more energized, I realize, by the creative process and being in touch with making art, that, um, you know, it's a good thing. And I definitely have, heard from other, mothers that are in a similar position, and it's just what you just do what you have to do, really. And um I think it's worth it. So hopefully that answers the question. But, and I had a few other things I had to prioritize as well. And it's just, I just knew that it was time. And um it's kind of funny because I have an October birthday, and I was like, I was just like, okay, this year is the year for me. This October, I'm, getting back into my art, and that's what I did. So, and then I also, just to make myself accountable for, in some way, I was like, I'm definitely doing Inktober. So I set my mind to that, because then I was at least, accountable in that way. And then I was like, okay, I'll give it a try, see if this works for me. And then, from day one, I was like, okay, I definitely don't know why I cut off my air supply like this for a while. But like I said, it's all good, because I have a lot going on, and it's just what I had to do at the time, I guess. I'm gonna view it that way. And but yeah, I mean, I just try to be flexible in life, and I just it just the seemed the right time now to get back into things.
Hmm, it's good to hear.
Yeah. Thanks.
You feel like the Inktober, the whole challenge, did it challenge you
Oh yeah.
in
I
any
mean,
way?
it definitely did. I mean, the thing is, and one reason why I hadn't done it before really was because I thought it was just for illustrators. I don't know why I thought that. I'd seen it and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And but I just didn't think it was for me. And then I guess I still was kind of thinking that when I said I was gonna do it, but I was like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna do it." But then once I got into it and I started meeting a lot of great artists, I was like, "Okay, it's a lot of different kinds of artists. People are even doing it in different formats. Forget about ink, which ink is something I actually like to work with. I always work with India ink and always have for the longest. So the materials, I actually already had the materials, so I was like, okay, that's cool. I have the materials. And you know, um but so in a way I still think I'm maybe not part of the norm, like what's, the Inktober standard of I don't know. I don't know why I want to say the standard of excellence, um I think I'm really not quite a part of what is classically Inktober, but like I said, there's a lot of different people doing it, participating different ways. I saw people doing collage, people even doing like video stuff. So I was like, this is cool. And then it just, you know, um, I realized once I started doing it that it came so naturally to do. And like I said, it's always, so yeah, it was a good way to keep myself accountable to create every day. But then I realized I didn't really need the accountability. I was enjoying it, and maybe things will change in the future, but I'm definitely love making art every day.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it was a good
that's
jumping
good.
off point. Yeah, for sure.
I'm happy to hear that. You essentially grew up doing this almost like walking
Yeah.
with how much you've done art. Personally, I'm inspired by that because thinking back to my own childhood, well, I wonder what I did that was like second nature that I did on the daily kind of thing.
Right.
But in a roundabout way, we'll see how we can bring this back. But have you ever have you ever done a single stroke painting or something like that?
um Well, that's a good question. I tend to really not do that. I tend to really actually do a lot of layering, and there's a lot of layers that usually come into it. So, I did do a couple things in Inktober that were more, that were a little bit simpler, but not quite. I mean, I tend to really do a lot of mark making. So, yeah, I mean, I know that, throughout like my art education, I think I had to do some projects like that here and there, but it's not what I personally gravitate to doing. I think it's cool, but yeah, not really. No. I tend to do a lot of different layers, and you know, even if something looks like it's kind of simple, it's probably has a lot of layers to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so not really. I don't really, but that is cool, but I don't really do that.
That is interesting. You say you had an
Yeah.
art education as well.
Yeah, I just mean in terms of, when I growing up and stuff, my mom actually, she is an artist, although she doesn't do, um, she's always done artistic stuff throughout her life, but, and also her father, I think, was an artist. But anyway, it does, it's runs in the family. But she would always, if I was interested in doing, some kind of art related thing, she would usually try to make it happen somehow, taking a class or whatever. My neighbor actually was an artist too, and we, she would, I think it was in exchange for us watching their kids sometimes. She would give me art classes, something like
Hmm,
that. That's actually something I haven't thought about for years, but she made really cool art, and I hope she's still making it. I should look her up, but really kind of, her art was a little bit like surreal. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. I remember one thing when I was little that stood out to me was she had done like a painting of her daughters, and she used jack-o'-lanterns for their heads. And I was like,
hmm.
I thought it was really cool, but it is kind of strange. I know that they were, yeah, I mean, they were definitely kind of like a unique, cool family. So I hope they're doing well. I have no idea
Oh,
where they are now, but
that's
yeah,
very cool.
so I would take classes here and there. My mom, she did not study art in school, but I think she learned from her father. I'm trying to remember, but she would paint. She liked oil painting. She would use colored
Hmm,
pencils sometimes. So, my parents have always been interested in, the arts and art, and so I didn't have them necessarily, you know, yeah, I mean, and then I initially went to a school not necessarily to study art, but then I did end up transferring to Pratt, which is where I finished. And it's a great school, really. I went to NYU before that and had a really amazing teacher there. He's a great artist and really inspiring. So, the teachers that I had were definitely, um, yeah, very inspiring. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I mean, there's pros and cons to going to school for, something creative like that for art. I was studying printmaking at Pratt, and, they have a great printmaking department. And that's something that printmaking, it's not something that I would have discovered on my own, or maybe I would have, but it would have taken quite a bit more time to discover. So you do learn a lot of different materials, methods. You're exposed to a lot of different ideas. The con is that maybe, when you're young, you're going to college, you can be very, you could take a lot of what you hear to heart, and that can sometimes um not be the best thing. So when you're young, but but so that's, so I did get a BFA. It was a while back, so it's not that recent. But so that's in terms of, like, I'm not a self-taught artist, although I've been doing it, like I said, since as long as I can remember. Um, so it's a little bit of both, really. Yeah, it's a
Interesting.
little bit of both. Yeah.
Surrealism is such a fun movement. There was the surrealist movement, and actually,
Yeah.
that is something that I've been really fascinated by.
Yeah, no,
But
it is, yeah. Hmm.
I really like that your mom would help you essentially if there was a way to help you realize your dreams, your art dreams, and she would do that. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, she's very, she's, yeah, she's supportive and everything. I'm not sure what, if they 100% love my art, but they wouldn't say that. So, but that's, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's great when parents do that sort of thing, and I'm sure you do the same for your kids.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not, well, I definitely have never pushed to have them, like they must make art. But they just, and my son wasn't as into it when he was little. My daughter, when she was less than 12 months old, she did, she picked up a paintbrush and she was painting, and
Mm.
um but now they both just, they love to draw. And this reminds me of when I was little. I mean, I would just get an idea and I just had to sit down and draw, and they're both like that now, and my son especially, he's very, we just have the materials available and they just like to do it. So,
Mm.
and we definitely, yeah, I mean, we love to see what they come up with, and it's always really I would just love hearing what they say about their artwork. And yeah, it's just cool to see what their ideas are and how they're conveying them.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that is
nice.
interesting.
It is, yeah.
I've seen some of the stuff that you guys have done together, and I think it still evokes quite a lot. And what that tells me is that honestly, the quality of art doesn't matter if the
Mhm.
emotion is the intent or just depicting something. Quality only matters when you have a standard.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's subjective, I mean, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I heard a quote once, or someone say, you know, "Oh, I could do that," and then you're like, "Well, sure you can. Why not go ahead and do it?" I mean, it's like whatever, like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. And
yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah. So that's not really what it's about. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
yeah, I actually had this conversation recently, and it's
Mhm.
actually in a feedback way was sparked by the art that I was seeing from you,
Oh.
from with my friends of mine. And I was thinking about music
Mhm.
and singing and kind of like just personal experience with creating poetry and things like that. I do the same thing. It's very stream of consciousness.
Mhm.
Sometimes I would get a little more deliberate with it,
Mhm.
and I would experiment different approaches. But in art, in like physical art, visual art, there are movements throughout history. There's like the Renaissance period. There's the Surrealist movement.
Mhm.
I don't feel like there's been anything like that in music.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, well, my husband's a musician. I mean, music history, I don't know as much about. I'm very into art history. I'm definitely, you know, um, I love learning about different art movements, artists. I'm super into it. I wish I could correlate it more to music. I mean, I'm sure, there's definitely different genres. Obviously, throughout history, there have been times when only a certain kind of music was made. Um, but, you know, that varies through cultures. So,
Hmm.
you could look at it from a Western perspective, it would be one way, an Eastern. I'm sure, I don't know. I don't know as much about music to be able to, I wish I could make a comparison with it. I mean, I just wish I knew more. So you're saying that like there's you're saying that there's you feel like there's movements in art history that you don't see a similar kind of thing happening with music or and art
Yeah,
history you could look at the same way too because there's Western art history which is what a lot of people learn and then although now luckily it seems like people are in formal education or we're being exposed to a little bit more than just what happened in Europe or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I love art history though, and you know, I love music too. I appreciate music so much. I don't play any instruments or anything, but we are a very musical household, and
mm,
lots of my husband and lots of friends who are in music in some way, friends and family actually. So
mhm,
I definitely appreciate it so much. And I do always listen to music whenever I can. There's always music. Right now I can hear my husband playing his guitar in the other room with the kids and they love music too. So music and art are definitely even if we can't come up with a a correlation right now, I mean there's definitely, there's even movements of art relating to music. I believe, for example, I don't know if you've heard of like, I think Kandinsky listened to a particular kind of music making this one series of paintings that
mhm.
I think they're on display at the Guggenheim Museum here in the
Ah,
city. But yeah, there's the music and art are just, they go hand in hand and I know plenty of artists that they have particular work that's related to music and
mhm.
yeah, so it's definitely yeah, they go together.
I agree,
Yeah, for sure.
and it works in reverse as well. I follow some sync artists and like sync music professionals on LinkedIn,
Mm.
and someone suggested a brilliant idea of muting a movie or like a trailer
Mhm.
and composing to it. And I
Oh,
thought, well, that's
interesting.
just genius, right?
Yeah.
So it vexes me because to me that there's almost a spirit in visual art and even in poetry, in writing,
Mhm.
that seems to be it seems to me like there's a very heavily guarded gate keeping that spirit from entering music, the way I see it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, like I said, I don't know as much about music, but that sounds definitely, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Hmm. What's interesting, actually, I would say the spirit of it
Mhm.
is just like what you're saying, which is not even per se trying to depict something specific, but just to depict. That's it. And that very dreamlike and the innocence, the childlike nature of it, I feel like that is very, very much shut down in the music world.
Interesting. Yeah. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
And it could very well be, yeah, I mean, I don't have a perspective to offer, but yeah, that's a really interesting statement for sure.
Hmm.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. It's something that's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's super interesting.
Yeah. One thing that one thing that I'm curious about is, so I help musicians who feel like they
Mhm.
can't sing
Right.
find their voices, right? But what I find is that there's oftentimes this thing where people like, I want to be a singer, for instance.
Mhm.
You could say I want to be an artist, but with that comes a lot of like restricting rules. Almost
Yeah,
like
I
what you were
hear you.
saying with how some people can take it too much to heart.
Mhm.
How do you feel like those limiting beliefs come about in art or the artists that you've seen?
I mean, well, it's crazy because it's almost like, I mean, for me, it's almost like I don't have a choice. I mean, even when I wasn't, fully immersed in making like my art as I prefer to make it, I was still an artist, and it's something that I almost have no choice about, although in a very good way. You know, it's
Mhm.
I can't choose to be any other way. I mean, it's just always how I've been, and ever since I can remember. I mean, um it's never, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think about the right way to say it, because you definitely, I mean, there's definitely there can be a striving, or, it's not, I'm not saying it's not something that you're going to work at, but in terms of being something, um, it's not like being a doctor or something like that. It's like when you're an artist of any kind, you're just, it's just a way that, you know, and it's just a way that you are. It's just, you, when you're an artist, it's just a way of being. And I'm not trying to make it sound like it's superior to anything. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. It's just a way of processing and expressing. I mean, I don't know, because I'm sure there's people that don't feel well, honestly, here's the thing. I mean, I think that everyone probably is an artist in some way, but maybe it's so wrong of me to say that, but in a way, everyone has their own artistry and creativity. I mean, I honestly think it's rare for any human being not to be in some way. I mean, I think it's natural for humans to want to create or make something or build something. Um, when you're a visual artist, that's just what your way of, expressing is through art mediums. And but when you're a visual artist, it could be, art mediums could be anything really. So, you know, whether you're, you know, making a painting, or you're taking a picture, or you're, you know, even like decorating for a holiday or something. You know what I mean? I think it's just so natural for humans to want to make or build. And I do honestly think that it's in everyone. It's just comes out in different ways, I think. Um, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, or maybe it doesn't, but I think it does. I don't know. I think it
I
is. I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
I think so too. The way that I see people go about their day, a lot of people say I'm not creative.
Right.
But creative has a stigma connotation.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
And creativity, beyond that stigma, is just taking what's available, combining something, or
Mhm.
doing some kind of transformation to perform something new, or just it's the combination of things.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
that
No,
simple.
definitely. Yeah, for sure.
So if if you're if you're someone who says I'm not creative, there's hope, is what we're saying.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, so many, well, a big example they always hear is, almost every kid, so many kids love to make art or they want to sing, they want to dance. It's like that's like inherent, I feel, to people, and then it does somehow get lost along the way, whether it's, and to be honest, I was someone that was told from a very young age that no one in our family can sing, no one's musically inclined. So I what you speak to children shapes them, and it's true, it is true, and it's, when we're adults, we process those things and, do what we need to do to get past them, or maybe people don't, unfortunately. But um maybe it is just something that it's inherent to children. It's you have that, you know, spark to be an artist or create in some way, and then whether it's, your home or, your school or your community or something that, for whatever reason, maybe you can, maybe you don't even have maybe you just need to focus on surviving even as a child, which is, very tragic. But yeah, so for whatever reason, I think it is inherent to so many children, if not all children, and then somehow it's, taken away, I think. Yeah, your kids really do, they potentially become what you speak, so that's something to definitely take seriously. Not that I'm
Yeah.
trying to give parenting
It's
advice, I'm
almost like a
definitely not.
tree.
Yeah, yeah, but
When a tree is young, yeah, when a tree is young,
mhm,
if you were to like if you were to jab I don't know, some kind of thing of color in it, and just like
mhm,
slap that on,
right,
that or even inside,
yeah,
that's going to spread because it's going to grow. That it's closer to the root
mhm.
than when it's older. When it's older, it's like it's just like a smoke under the water, under the bridge, or water on the bridge. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know why I say smoke under, but it's not as big compared to the whole. Whereas when you're small, this is like one of the only experiences you've had, and it's telling you this.
Mm. Yeah, mhm.
Then that is what you grow from. It's so
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
how do you view other people's art?
I mean, I'm honestly, I love looking at art. I'm like always, that's something that goes back to way, as far back as I can remember. I've always just genuinely loved seeing what other people make too. And that was, one of the big reasons wanting to go to art school. I love seeing what other artists make. I love going to art museums. I love going to art galleries. I love seeing art on the street. I love, seeing what my kids make. I love seeing what some random person makes. I just love art. I'm just seriously an art person. I just love it and appreciate it so much. And, if I wasn't someone that was making art, I probably would be, doing something with it in some other way. So I've just always, I just love art. And, I love encouraging anyone to make art, at whatever perceived level they're at, or whatever, whether they're just starting it for the first time ever doing anything, today, or, um, you know, a professional artist. I mean, I love art, and I am a huge supporter of anyone trying to make art, basically. So I just love seeing what people do, what people
Yeah.
come up with, hearing, what they have to say, or their process. Everything about it, I do just love.
Hmm.
Okay, I
I
can
can
hear my
tell
daughter
that
starting to
from.
cry. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
No, well, she's just wondering
Is
where
it?
my daughter's wondering where I am, but yeah, no, I'm definitely, if you're someone if you're someone I know and you're trying to, you know, do your art, whatever it may be, I'm definitely going to be your biggest supporter. So I just love it. I just get excited by it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. I can tell that from the way that you present yourself at social, on Instagram, that sort of thing.
Well, I'm
Have you ever
genuinely, I mean,
sold any of your art?
yeah, I have actually, I have sold a few things here and there. Even recently, last month, I sold a couple of the Inktober things. I do sell a couple things here and there, and have done some, you know, even a few like commission things over the years. Definitely looking into, seeing, I mean, for me right now, the focus is just on, creating and whatever, but definitely I'm collaborating with someone I went to school with, actually, that I'm friends with. And he does a lot of digital art now, working with him to use some of my, um, what would you call it as opposed to digital? Just some of my stuff, we're making like different digital brushes and stuff, using some of my I don't know the right word, but just some of the paintings that I made and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely looking to collaborate with other
Wow.
artists in different ways, and um figure out ways to get my art out there in different ways, see if I can um you know make money off of it, potentially. Like I said, the focus right now is on creating, but definitely just keeping myself open to possibilities, and just seeing what progresses. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I like it. Open to possibilities.
Yeah, I definitely
If
am.
you're not
And
open to it, then there is no possibility.
yeah, yeah. And I'm genuinely someone that I love people, and I love meeting people, getting to know people. Um, my art, that's the thing, like, I hope it doesn't, I'm not like a really necessarily dark person. I can be, but I definitely love people and, um, really just try to find the beauty in life, and I see it all the time. So I'm grateful for that for sure.
I actually just wanted to ask you if there's something that you want people to know about or you want to promote, what would that be?
Something about myself that I want to promote, or
Yeah, or a cause that you believe in.
oh, um, I mean, I don't have anything in particular that I'm looking to promote right now or would want to promote. I mean, I hope that I added something to help people get to know your business because, like I said, I'm someone that this is totally outside of the art conversation and whatever, but I'm someone that from a young age was told, oh, we don't sing, we don't do music. So I hope that,
Mhm.
people uh can find their voice and express themselves in the way that they want to. And yeah, so I don't have any particular thing that I would want to highlight, but just really, in terms of people just finding themselves and expressing themselves, being themselves. That's what I would hope for anyone.
Hmm. I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
And I'm sure our viewer will really appreciate that because we're
I hope
all
so.
about
Yeah, I
self-expression.
hope I hope that, it was valuable to someone.
Definitely. Well, it was valuable for me as well. I mean, just thinking about stream of consciousness, dreams, and
Hmm.
symbolism, and that sort of thing was extremely enlightening. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share about yourself and your insight.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for asking me and letting me do this. So I really appreciate it. It was great.
Absolutely. Happy to be a part of it, and it's a great way to start the new year. Happy
Yeah.
2024, and let's make it a
Yay.
great one.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, Sonia. Take care.
Okay, thanks. You too.
All right. Bye bye.